A brand that stays stagnant becomes irrelevant.
Emily Ford, a global influencer, transformational speaker, and founder of the Fordivine method. She's built brands and businesses that empower others to rise.
You can grow through anything. Just 15 years ago, I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor. I really did nothing but...
You had rocket success. How did you manage it?
It didn't feel like work for the longest time because I was growing with it.
What inspired you to go all in on this new business?
It's based on my experience through transition, discovering. I created this beautiful asset called personal brand.
So what are the key components of a successful personal brand?
You've got to have clarity on getting so crystal clear. You're going to create not a look at me brand, but a come with me brand.
Emily, I am so excited to dive in to your journey and your relaunch story.
Hilary, I'm so blessed to be here with you today, and I cannot wait to connect.
Well, you're magnetic. And when I have an opportunity to highlight somebody who's had so many, right? There's so many relaunches along the way as women that we have. But if I were to say the most significant relaunch that got you where you are today, for those that maybe don't know your story, can we just dive in there? Because it's truly, it's nothing short than remarkable, and people have to hear the journey.
Yeah. I always wish that people knew the journey when they fall upon my Instagram page, because I so badly want to tell people, like, listen, you can do whatever you want in this thing called life. You can grow through anything. You can have breakthroughs, because it was just 15 years ago that I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor in Minneapolis, Minnesota, like working 3 different jobs, getting nowhere fast. And I finally got a mentor. I met a woman at the gym that decided to mentor me. And then I started in the wellness space and built a 9-figure sales organization by the time I was 26. And, it was in, though, that I call it the incubator of growth that I was in for those 3 years, where I really did nothing but develop myself, learn the skills, change my mindset, that, you see everything today. Those 3 years was just like learning, as Malcolm Gladwell says, the 10,000 hours, right? Like the trial, the error, the failing, the no's, all of that stuff. And, so that's where I got my start. And then,
So Emily, I have to ask you, you're at the gym.
Yeah.
Did you go up to this mentor, or did she come up to you? How did that? Because people are probably going to be sitting here, well, yeah, nobody comes up to me, or this doesn't happen to me. How did it happen for you?
Yeah. And this is why social media is so wildly important, is because we met at the gym. We met in a group women's fitness class, and it was like, hi, who are you? And who are you? And we met, and, there was that connection. And then we followed each other at the time on Facebook. And I started watching her and creeping on, her Facebook account. I'm like, wow, she's 10 years older than me. It was right after the mortgage crisis here in the US. So she became an entrepreneur after she got laid off working in mortgage banking. And I really would watch her, and I saw, oh, she works for herself, and she gets to wear her fitness clothes all day. And I loved that whole concept. And so I went after her and said, hey, is your company hiring? Is there any way I could work with you? I love wellness, because she was selling supplements. And she giggled, and she's like, listen, here's what it takes to work with me. And she really laid it out. She's like, I only work with the people that, they're going to match energy for energy. You got to be all in type of thing. And I'm like, well, I'm all in. I have nothing to lose. And so that's how it all started. And so this is why it's like personal branding is so important, because if she didn't show up online, I would have never had that drip campaign on me to then pursue her. And then eventually we became business partners.
Ah, see, I didn't know that part of the story.
Hmm.
So, as you started to build up, what was this first business that really like set the trajectory for you? What was that?
Yeah, it was in the network marketing space, in the anti-aging space, and really weight loss for a while. Then it turned into anti-aging. Yeah, so supplements like protein, adaptogenic herbs, things like that.
And so, when you started to do this, you said, like, what I really like about your story is that there hasn't been this straight line.
Yeah.
You've like, it's kind of moved all around, but what is it about success and your, how do you look for it, know that that's going to happen and want to go in that direction? Like you said, it
Mhm.
started out, supplements, and then it started with the beauty. What is it? What is it about that kind of,
Mhm.
you notice, you're seeing, you're like, oh, this is something good.
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's that pull towards something, right? Where,
Mhm.
typically you're being called and you're leaning into something because you're passionate about it. You really take interest in it because you feel connected to it in some way. That doesn't mean you should start a business with anything you feel connected to, but that's like the first thing for me that I'm like, okay, because my heart's got to be in it. But then you got to bring your brain with you, and for me it's looking at things of what's this product like, is there room for it in the marketplace, is there room for growth, who's the partners in it, like, I look at all the intricate details, which leads me to this word conviction, where it's like you gotta believe in it, and belief has a sound, and you've got to absolutely 100% believe in what you're backing. Otherwise, you're not going to give it your all. I just feel like it's going to eventually, it's going to suffer if you don't believe in it. And so that's typically what I look for, like in companies I partner with now, or even just building my new company, Fortify. It's like I had a bunch of tests when I was building the company. Like, I was testing certain things. I had a group of women. They were like my people that were testing the program, all of that stuff. So I had to see, like, does it actually work? So then I could be convicted before I, like, buy a building and start it.
Well, yeah, and I think you were just moving into the building in LA last time that we talked.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
this is big. But before we go into your most recent business and Fortify and what you're doing with personal brands, I want to go back to you. And you had that rocket success.
Mhm.
And how did you manage it?
Mm.
How did you have a life around it? And actually, did you have a life during those
Mm.
years?
Yeah, it's such a great question, because you do have to go all in. I mean, you know this yourself. Like, if you're going to do anything, it's going to take all of you. And for me, it didn't feel like work for the longest time, because I was just constantly growing with it and
Yeah.
transforming and learning how to speak and learning how to lead and learning how to develop culture and all of those things. But then eventually it caught up with me, and I woke up one day and I'm like, who am I? And when's the last time I called my mom? And I've got this great car, I've got multiple houses, but, like, it doesn't really do anything for me. Not what I thought it would do. And that's really, like, when I started to wake up and go down,
Emily, how long ago did that happen? That whole like who am I moment?
like 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's what's so incredible
Hmm.
because here you had the success, you've sold the business. You had a tough time when you were first kind of growing up with. Can you share a little bit more about what happened with dad and what happened with
Yeah.
brother? Just to kind of put this together, because I think so many of us just are on that fast train. Like we just got to keep going, keep going. What happened in
Well, I
that part?
love that you're asking this, because I had a traumatic childhood and I never dealt with it. Instead, I found something I could control, which was something in business. And so I'm like, this is the one thing in my life I can build. It's up to me. Let's go. Because when I grew up, I was the youngest of three children, once four, and I grew up with a single mom. And, there was a tragedy in my family. My brother passed away under my father's watch. My mom came home from the grocery store and he was, you know, nearly 5 years old, laying in the road and got ran over. And, that started like this crazy downward spiral for my family. And there's a lineage of it as well, of alcohol and depression and so many things. And my mom ended up getting full custody, but she had to provide like any single mom would. And, I basically raised myself. And then she dated a guy for, a decade that abused her. It felt like every other day. And so, I mean, anybody listening to this, it's like when we're that young and our cortisol levels are spiking and it's fight or flight and we got to grow up super fast, like you just like, you have a different level of empathy, I think, for humanity just by default, because you've seen and experienced so much. And so when I got into business, I was like, oh, these people are like changing their life and they're designing their life. And there's so much personal development. And I never had any of this. And I kind of used it though to like sharpen skills to build business, but I didn't use it to heal until I had that moment, 5 years ago, where I was like, why does none of this like feel like it should? And why am I struggling to maintain a healthy relationship with a man? And why do I feel like I never want to be married ever? And it's because I had so much trauma really from men. And this was just like buried in my soul. And I had to break that stronghold.
So, Emily, you're having this, these things are kind of coming together. And was there one situation that kind of was like the straw that broke the camel's back? Like, or was it just an accumulation of finally you're just like, what is going on? I'm done with this.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Well,
I'm done.
It's like a slow burn, right? It's like I think if you're an intuitive woman, you feel like, like your energy drops. I mean, we know if you're like a high performing woman, like when you're on, and suddenly I felt like I had to force myself into rooms. And I also felt like my voice was no longer needed. And I am so driven, Tony Robbins talks about, the human needs. And it's like, I'm driven by growth and contribution. If I'm not growing and contributing, it's just like, ugh, like, what am I doing here?
You and I are cut from the same cloth.
Really?
Exactly. Yeah.
I love
exactly.
it.
So I get that.
Yeah.
And I had that I'm done moment too. So this makes sense. And it's that slow burn. It's that, oh my gosh, you wake up and you're like, what the hell? And the whole thing about, you hadn't called your mom.
Right. And so it's like the slow burn, but then I had where I met my dream man, and finally like this self-respecting, amazing, healthy, masculine man that's done all the work. And I found myself sabotaging the relationship. And, the underlining thing was obviously feeling not worthy. But I'm like, where is all of this stemming from? And it was kind of like this whole explosion, if you will. And I think that's what happens. Like, we will just explode if we don't take care of things. And that's really what happened to me, is like I exploded. And it's like I had to be broken open. I had to, in order to change. And then that's when I started to really look at what was actually going on and why I was doing certain things, which then allowed me to like lay down things that no longer served me, because I realized that my identity was attached to things. You know what I mean?
And so at that point, did you already have an idea of where you could go to break this identity, to have the tools? Like what happened to you that you're like, okay, I'm sabotaging my relationship. Did the guy is he still in your life now?
Yeah, I'm married to him.
I love that.
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't know that part. That's
yeah,
really great. But there was a point where you're like, I don't like. How did you know where to look?
yeah. Well, I was just because again, it's like if something isn't working, I get really resourceful, and so I went on this quest, and I would go to therapy. I mean, there was one point I was going to therapy like twice a week, just trying to navigate. And then for me, I really had this. Okay, so I met my now husband Jake, but what happened was I was trying to break up with him. And I just honestly thought I'd be single forever. Like, I did not want
Mm,
to do the marriage thing. And I realized one night, because I was out in Malibu in California where I live, and I was with like a group of girlfriends. And it's like I was there, but I wasn't there. And it's like all these women just wanted real love. And some were in relationships, some weren't. And I had a cocktail, but I just was still like not really feeling it. And I came home to my penthouse apartment on
mm,
Ocean Avenue in Santa Monica. And I took a really hot bath with Epsom salt, lit a candle, and just freaking bawled my eyes out, like
wow.
just a wail of a cry.
Mm,
And that's where I just felt so lonely. I felt like people know who I am, but does anyone really know who I am?
mm,
And I just felt like so depleted in every facet. And I just cried out to God. And that's really when that voice of God, it was like, please come home to me. Like, it's like when you don't know what to do, all you know to do is pray. And I had a lukewarm relationship with God, but I never really had that like solid relationship.
mm,
And so that was the night where I committed, I'm going to go find a non denominational church and I'm just going to get better. And so that's what I did. I started to, instead of like chasing attention from men, because I think I did have daddy issues from not having
mm,
a dad.
mhm,
I'm gonna devote my life to growing my faith, growing myself, and that's really where I started like the real healing, and just growing my faith. Honestly, completely changed me so much. And then I got spiritual mentors that were really helping me walk it out and heal, and that's what I did. And then reconnected with Jake, who's now my husband. And it's
mhm.
so amazing how God works because he went on a similar journey of, chasing God instead of chasing things. And so we both grew our faith.
Independently, you did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's so great.
Yeah.
It's interesting how it comes full circle
Mhm,
when it's supposed to be, right?
mhm,
Going back to you as this businesswoman, and you've got this, you're trying to go through and heal those deep trauma, the wounds, but you're still ambitious. You're
mhm.
still wanting to continue. You've had this great success. You've had the exit. What was it about that exit that you knew it was time to be done with that? Because I think a lot of times people don't know when it is the right opportunity. We miss the window of opportunity. What happened for you? Because I know it leads to where you are today.
Yeah, it was just getting really honest with myself. I believe if we would just get honest with ourselves, like the time was up, the growth wasn't there anymore, the belief wasn't there anymore, like the growth in the company wasn't also in the belief in it, all the signs, and then your body keeps score. And so it's interesting. I look back to the time and I was so inflamed and I was eating clean and working out, but I was so puffy, I was so stressed, and I just lacked energy. It's like everything had been squeezed out of me. And so I knew like I have to get the courage to walk away from this. But I didn't want to let people down. And I think that's a huge thing for women of like, I don't,
I'm sure people are resonating with that.
yeah,
Don't want to let people down.
yeah.
So just keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Because I just knew, I knew that there was going to be a handful of people saying like, who does she think she is? She's selfish. She's,
Mm.
you know, but I just had to go like, my calling is too great. This chapter, like I've already climbed this mountain. There's a different mountain that needs to be climbed that God has for me. And so for me, it's really being obedient to what the Lord is telling. Like, you know, some call it like your intuition. For me, it's like
Mm.
listening to God. What does He want me to do? And then I need to be obedient and walk that out and co-labor with Him on that. And so for a while, I just was like rejecting it, and then I just was like, I have to move, because if not now, then when? You know, how long am I going to continue to do this? And so I just got to this point where it's like Robbins says, like the 5 seconds of courage. Like I just needed the courage to, you know, start to do my other things. And that is actually something I turned on the mic and started a podcast, and I was like, oh, I really love this. And I started with my first method program, and I'm like, oh, this really works. And people are having results.
What was the first method around that
It
you
was
were
called,
talking about?
it's hilarious. It was called the It's Emily method. And basically, it was a whole program to teach women working from home all the things: energy management, how to dress for success, how to organize their life. There was like a whole section on sales, like how to set the appointment, how to do follow ups, how to build a movement, how to build teams. Like it was this whole kind of like life encompassing method. And what I did is I wrote it all out, filmed it. Meanwhile, I was still doing the company, but it allowed me to see like what it could be like doing something else. And that was enough for me to go, okay, we need to just move on now.
And so once you sold the business, did you immediately go into, you already had the podcast started.
Mm-hmm.
What was that next transition? Because I do believe that there's a lot of people out there that don't know. It's like I heard this the other day. It was so great. It's like the mountains, right? There's always like, you go to the top of the mountain and you can't jump to the next mountaintop. You got to go down and go back up and go back down. And so here's your moment where it's like, all right, you kind of are starting, you're on the top, you're selling your business, not quite like, okay, what happened?
I call this the messy middle. Okay. And this is the part that nobody talks about. You think you just jump from thing to thing, and sometimes that's what's perceived. And the thing that I
love that. Sometimes that's what's perceived. That people think that like you literally jump mountain to mountain to mountain, mountain.
Yeah.
No, there's that.
Right.
That's
So
really truly
so
nothing
there
at
was
all.
this period, and I was actually on with a client earlier today because she's in that messy middle. And I said, what you don't see is I created this thing called the It Factor, and then I got into coaching, and I honestly hated coaching. I was like, this is not for me. And then I, was partnered with a different beauty company, and I'm like, this is not for me either. Like these guys are too slow to build what I want to build. Like I tried a lot of different things, and when you seek, you eventually understand, and you will find the gold. But I feel like enough people, they don't like go searching. It's like a dog in the backyard searching for that bone. You've got to dig, and you've got to dig like within yourself and within your soul and understand like, no, this isn't like a bad thing because this thing failed or flopped. I'm just on the quest to figure out what is the next thing that I'm meant to build. And, for me, it's like, my company now is filled with creativity. Like I completely transitioned. I went from like, the building sales teams, and now I'm like building brands, right? It's like a different side of my brain, even. It's creative work and all that. And it's like I had to go through a lot to figure out this next step. And I just feel like people need to move faster in their quest to figure out what it is. And they, like, you can't beat yourself up for failed projects, or what you deem to be a failed season is just a stepping stone to get you to where you're actually supposed to go. It's a part of the discovery
That is
process.
so true.
I mean,
Can I tell you, I sit here and I literally say, God, help me get through this failure faster.
Right.
That's my big thing. Like,
Good.
I get it. It didn't work. Just, can I please go faster through it?
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole thing. I don't want to be like in the valley for a long period. I'm like, I'm done. I'm ready. Move on. I love when my team comes to me and there's like, this didn't work. Great. It didn't work. Yeah. Check it off the list. We're never going to do that again.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Yeah.
So you end up Fortify, right? Fortify my brand. What inspired you to kind of go all in on this new business? Because it's exactly perfectly aligned with you, your life, and timing.
It's based on and built all through my experience. So while I'm going through the last 15 years, what I did is built my personal brand through, taking people on this journey called life, through transition, through discovering, through learning things and then teaching them. And I created this beautiful asset called my personal brand, that whatever business I do or whatever I want to create in this world, I have an asset now that I can use to sell products, build companies, or even just make an impact, most importantly. And so through me doing this the past decade, what I realized is so many people came to me and they're like, hey, like, can you help me with social media? Can you help? How do you build your brand? And how do you do this? And so I didn't even know that, like, I had this whole method that I was actually living out the past decade. And so I went to a hotel for a couple of days and I wrote it all out. And I'm like, why do I do what I do? And how have I built a raving, community? And how have I been able to also pivot and not lose people? And so I wrote it all out. And I'm like, okay, this is a method that people.
When did you do this?
2 years ago.
Okay. And so what are the key components of a successful personal brand? Because there is a difference between your business brand and your personal brand. And how do you differentiate? So first, the key components of what makes a good, successful brand.
Yeah, definitely.
Personal brand.
Yeah, you've got to have clarity on who you are, what you stand for sure. Like the clarity piece is huge. Like what is my message? Because the thing is, we're all special, okay? But the person out there that falls on our page, they want to know what's in it for me, right? And so getting so crystal clear of what is that message for this season of your life, that's going to make people click the follow button. You're going to create not a look at me brand, but a come with me brand. Okay. So
that's a great way to say it.
Yeah. So it's really
not a look at me brand, but a come with me brand.
Yep. And you got to have that radical clarity. And it's typically, it's typically tied to who you once were. And that's a part of the extraction experience I do with people of, like, we look at, like, what have you learned? What are you building? What do you have skilled in? Okay, let's bring that into your personal brand. Okay. But then what else makes a really great brand is consistency and showing up and building that trust, and not just consistency of, oh, I posted, or, here's some generic content. No, like consistently adding value and then letting people into your life a little bit. And this is where I think a lot of, like, the 2015 timeframe, a lot of that was just about, like, let's create content. Now it's like, just document your life, because that's what people really want. They don't just want the masterful keynote speech. They want to know what's happening behind the stage. They want to know what's happening the night before, right? And so it's like,
but Emily, what's the difference between having a personal brand and then having a business brand? Do you incorporate the personal brand into the business? How do you differentiate, or is there a need to differentiate?
Yeah. So many business brands, they're not growing if there's not, like, a human being attached to it, because people, let's just face it, like, they want to know who's the heartbeat behind it. whether it's a medical spa that I'm mentoring in LA. And I'm like, we need personality on the page because nobody cares about all these faces, right? And so what you want to do if like you have a business brand, you want to be sure that you are creating your personal brand as the founder of the business brand. And what it actually does is it fuels your company's brand for sure. And so, like our company Fortify, we have got brand pillars, just like my personal brand has brand pillars as well, but they interweave and they go back and forth. And it's just like this fuels this, fuels this. And so many people, though, especially millennials and younger, they want to know who owns this brand before I buy, this T-shirt that's, LA based or whatever. I want to know like what's the beliefs of the founders, who runs it. That is really how the e-commerce world has shifted and changed so much. And that's why you've got to have a personal brand. Every single person listening to this already has one. It's not based on how popular you are, or even though we make them here, logos and things like that. It's your reputation. It's literally your reputation. And so many people, if they don't put out stuff, well, then people perceive something about them, right? And it's like you can control a lot of the narrative just by how you show up.
What's interesting is that there's very few people like you that have actually created a $1 billion business and then realize that you absolutely have to have the personal brand element to it. What would you, if people are listening right now and they're like, I'm not doing what Emily's saying I should be doing. How do you jumpstart them?
We first of all, we go through like a series of deep questions, and it is like deep therapy, deep introspection. It is truly a personal development journey. If you have to and get to put yourself out there, it forces you to be very introspective of the things you value, the things you talk about, the things you're good at. Like, I honestly believe I am who I am today because I've been really thinking about how I can help people constantly every day, right? And so for a new person, I tell them, let's take out a piece of paper and let's write out your PIS, okay? And let's brain dump. And so the P is, what are your passions? The I is, what are your interests? And the S is, what are your skills? And if you just start writing, like just going, like, what am I passionate about? And just go, I'm into style. I love high to low, styling. I love faith and learning about my faith. Like, I'm passionate about a really good dinner, a good dinner spot with a great ambiance that I can wear a cute little dress to. I'm passionate about dogs. Like, don't even get me started. I'll watch dog videos and cry. It's like just brain dump. And then brain dump, what are you interested in? And interest is like, listen, I'm not an expert at it. I'm just, getting dancing lessons, or I'm interested in this thing. And then skills is like, depending on how old you are, man, if you really think about what am I skilled at, for people listening to this, like maybe you can make some really good, food. Maybe you're a really great person in the kitchen, or you're a really good baker, or you're good at sales, or you're good at organization, or I could go on and on. So what I do is this big extraction process to get people thinking about things that are already within them that we could just bring out into your personal brand with intention that will add value to other people. So that's a huge exercise we do to get people started.
What's interesting, Emily, you're saying this, and whether you're just starting out or whether you are already a 7, 8 figure, 9 figure business, everybody should be doing this.
100%.
I mean, it's a great exercise to go through, to really think about you, especially, if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, you got to be thinking about this. You have to understand that maybe you've just been on that treadmill. Maybe you've just been focused on that job. But as you said, all of a sudden it's like you wake up and you're like, series of events. And you're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
For sure. And then there's the other side of it. People try to get online, but it feels stale to them. It feels forced. They're like, why? Like, I don't like this. I'm like, you don't like it because you're talking about things that don't ignite your soul. You're
Yeah.
not convicted by the things you're talking about. You're not experienced in the things you're talking about. No wonder it feels fake. And so I love to bridge that gap and make it feel so authentic, so you, like you're driven by it,
Mm.
because it's well thought out. Because a lot of people, they'll just get online and they'll just like look at what other people do, and then they'll just kind of like copy and paste. We live in this copy and paste culture, and no wonder why people feel stale. Like their soul is like, I don't want to do this. It's like, no, you're just not doing it the way that you're called to do it.
So I have a really important question.
Yeah.
And this one has to do with, do you ever believe, no matter what relaunches you're going through in life, that there is a time to pull back and not be so right in the middle sharing every single thing? Or do you think that that's when you need to kind of lean into it?
I feel that a brand that stays stagnant becomes irrelevant. And we're meant to always be in motion. And if you want an honest brand, I think it's beautiful to tell people, here's what's going on lately with me, here's what I'm learning. However, like, I'm not about divulging personal, intimate, like if you're in the middle of a storm with your spouse,
Mm.
work it out, figure it out until you talk about it. It's no one's business. But you can always allude to things like, I'm not feeling this anymore. Like, it's funny you even asked me this, because lately, I just want to open the windows and light candles, and I'm moving at a different pace. I appreciate things differently, and my brain can trick with me and think like, oh no, 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 like, don't do this. You got to go faster, and it's like, I was actually going to share this on my Instagram of just like, this is foreign to me, like feeling almost all these feelings, anyways, random, but I share it because there's an eloquent way you can share it. And, it's like Robin Sharma, he wrote the book Wealth Money Can't Buy. And, he sold all of his stuff and they moved to Italy and got a cottage, a
Yeah.
farmhouse situation. And it's like, I'm sure when he was in the middle of all that, it was like, we're transitioning, navigating, and now he's ready to talk about it, how he wanted to leave. And then it came out with a book. And so I think where people go wrong is they go dark and they don't share anything. And then people forget about them online anyway. And I also just think there's like a disconnect where when you do what I have done and I take people on the journey as I'm going through it, they now feel like they're a part of it. So now that they see me launch
So
Fordify,
good.
it's the law of the buy-in. They're bought in because they watched us get the building. They watched us try to figure it out. They watched us rent a bunch of places forever and shoot brands. And they watched me going back to like helping steam clothes for a minute as I was building out the team, And so there's an element of it. Like if you show up, it's also healing for you, because it's like if you're in a bad spot or feeling funky, if you go turn it around and help somebody else by sharing your story or sharing what you're
Yeah.
learning today, it actually fuels you even more. And it helps you. I believe like my audience has helped me heal through a lot of stuff. Really, I truly do.
That I always ask questions that are relevant, and what are, intriguing to me.
Yeah.
I've heard from so many women, if I keep getting a message over and over, right? People keep kind of going down the same path. But the reason I asked what I asked you about this is because last couple months have been really tough. I mean, I think I shared with you my head, and I had some
Oh,
skin cancer there, and it just kind of went awry. It went down a bad path. And then my brother had a heart attack and had to fly back. And I think I talked to you right around that too. And, there's just been like, and it could go on and on and on. And I have always kind of, when I feel that real connection of like, I get the calling, I get the, the intuitive hit, like, you need to share this. And I have found myself numerous times starting to hit the story, starting to hit the, like, okay, let me just share this. And I kind of like feel that, I want to see where this ends up and then go back and share the story once it's done, right? Once we're through the messy middle, it just,
Yeah.
especially when it's so raw and the relaunch is
Yeah.
so significant, and it's deep. It's deep, deep, deep. And I really appreciate you saying what you said, because there's that fine line of, you do need to know. It's not all perfect. It's not all like just so great.
Yeah.
It's not. There are a lot of tears. There are flights across country. And then having to do things that you're like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be doing this, but I said yes.
Right.
And
Right.
and I'm glad I did it. But I've got it. You taught me something here on this, and I'm going to take it to heart. And Emily, I appreciate our friendship now, and I
Oh my
appreciate,
gosh, me too.
yeah, I just, your heart is so big, and what you're doing with your new company, Fortify, and your method, I think it definitely, I need to get you back on. We need to go
Oh,
through it
there's
even more.
yeah, girl, we could talk forever.
Yeah.
We
And I know this is actually longer than I normally go, but I'm
I
just so
love it.
fascinated with
Yeah.
you. So if you had one thing
Hmm.
that you could share with people about kind of going from being invisible to visible,
Hmm.
what would you share?
Invisible to visible. I believe that we have to get quiet and we have to get honest. And a lot of people that are suffering, it's because they're procrastinating. And, you know, uh, we think that, like, oh, I'm just being humble and I just want to stay back here. And it's like you're giving yourself so many excuses. And I believe it's so insulting to God to waste your talent, to waste your gifts. And we live in this really selfish society. We really do. And at the end of the day, if there's something burning in your heart, if there's a greater calling, if you want to make a greater impact, you have to get over yourself and you've got to push through. And on the other side of that is going to be momentum, is going to be growth if you just walk out in faith. And that is really what faith is believing in the unseen. And just know that however things fall and take shape is how they're designed by God. And he's just waiting for you to like co-labor with him. And so when I work with so many people, and maybe you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to finally do the thing. I need to finally write the book. I need to finally put it out there. I need to finally, it's like in this moment, take action, take action and just know that it's just going to be like every step is going to get you further along, but you don't know unless you take that first step. It's like that Martin Luther
Totally.
King quote, it's like you just take it one step at a time. You don't know how it's all going to shape out. And I was sitting in one of my rooms here at our studio or at our building. We built out a studio for my new Fortify show, and I'm like, I didn't even envision this. Like, I don't even know how all this happened. And I was sitting with my husband because we were like getting it all built out, all the screens and all that stuff. And I'm like, isn't it funny, like how God works? It's like I just walked out in my obedience and I just said, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it for people because people matter. And I just want people to build a life that they actually believe in and it's congruent to them and it matters to me. And like, here we have all this stuff. I'm like, thank you, God, but I had to get over myself. And I also had to walk out in faith that like this might just work. And if it doesn't, something else is going to work as well.
Oh, so well said. So, Emily, where can people find you?
It's Emily. It's Emily on IG. Meet Emily Ford. That's like a great place to connect. And then the Fortify
Mm,
show too.
amazing. I knew that this was going to be like one of those shows that I just like sit back, and when we're done, I just kind of like take a deep breath because it was so good.
Yeah.
It was energetically charging for me. So thank you again for being here, and for you listening, like, take action. Go check Emily out. And remember, live now, love now, relaunch now. And I think you all know what I'm probably going to be doing. Not probably. What I'm going to go do is I'm going to go jump on and tell a little bit more about the story that I started. And I'll take another deep breath and I'll tune in and we'll make it happen. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of the ReLaunch journey, ReLaunch family. And we will be back again next week. Take care, everyone.